Hey, thanks for joining us on the Weekly Word. We're touring some of the old pioneers' graves in the area here. This is pioneer John McGhee, born back in the 18th century. One of the first white settlers in the area here. The story goes that the Little Tennessee River was flooded when he came through on a flatboat in the late 1700s. He and one of his slaves, and they looked over and the slave said, "Look at that," and pointed out and said there was a big boiling place of clear water coming up in the muddy Little T River. And Pioneer John told him, says, "Take a pole and mark it." And they marked it, and when the river went back down, he had found his spring. And he built a house there and went on to become one of the most influential and richest men in the state of Tennessee. At one time he owned something like 50,000 acres, and it was prime acreage too, along the Little Tennessee River where the Little Tennessee came out of the mountains down through here. And he had lots of slaves and farmed it and made a fortune, and eventually he had 3 children who each built their own plantation houses, one at the mouth of Tellico here called Tellico, and then one at Tuskegee, which took in where the old Fort Loudon is, and then one on up at Toco Creek. They left their names all over the country. In fact, this is the Niles-McGhee Cemetery that we're in, and John McGhee owned the old, what became known as the Niles Ferry, and made money off the ferry too. The Niles was his son-in-law, and to this day, you still see Niles Ferry Road and Industrial Park and everything named after Niles Ferry. I think there's even still parts of that Niles Ferry Road in Knoxville. It's where 411 highway crosses. The ferry actually continued to operate up until 1947 when they built the new 411 bridge, which is now under Tellico Lake, and we cross even a newer one today. But this is one of the wheelers and the dealers and most influential men that was ever in this area at the time. And it's got quite a monument here for somebody who died in 1851. But I guess that just shows that no matter how famous or infamous or how rich or how poor we are, how much land we may have owned or may not have owned, in the end of this life, and these cemeteries are just testaments that this world, we're just passing through it for a little while. But at the end, all we need is just a spot of ground just big enough to be our remains put in. But I'm glad that this world is not all there is, that there's a better world, and place your trust in Christ, because if you step out of this world one of these days, which you're going to, there's eternity to think about. Now's the time to be getting prepared. You'll be glad you did. Place your trust in Christ if you haven't already, and I promise you, He'll put joy in your soul like you've never seen before. We'll see you next time. We'll find something else to look around here and find.